So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Studio Life broadcast, episode 7. I'm here.
It's amazing. 7.
7, yes. 7 episodes we've managed to pull out of somewhere. Goodness knows where. All sorts of exciting audio-based stuff. Welcome to episode 7, and we're going to start with some news.
So, news at the moment, what is going on? I've been busy for the last 2.5 weeks building a new studio. Actually building with a builder from scratch, the whole building. It's been epically hard work, to be fair. Been doing manual labour and stuff, which I'm not really used to.
All good at.
Well, I'm getting better.
Yeah.
Getting better all the time.
2 weeks practice.
Yeah. And it's there almost. We have a building. It's treated. It's been a very specific design. So I had a meeting or a couple of meetings with the builder and said, right, I need to build a soundproof room, basically. And it also needs to sound awesome inside it. So I went through a bunch of designs with him, explained how you do that, using all kinds of different layers of materials and using rock wool and all kinds of different densities, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we came up with a design and we've built it and it's almost there.
You should see the photographs. They're absolutely thrilling of this bare wooden structure.
He sent me a message the other day. I sent him a picture of where I was up to, and I think he said that's the dullest photo anyone's ever sent me. It's exciting for me. It's going from nothing to something.
It will be very exciting when we're in.
It will, and we'll have more room. It'll generally be better.
Yeah, so exciting stuff. So, HQ is going to be moving probably with the next lot of filming.
I think next time we film, we'll be in there, which will be, that'd be great. Oh, that'd be so fun.
It'll be exciting.
Very exciting. And I'm filming a lot of it and I'm taking lots of photos. So I'm going to do an episode about, Dan will love this one, about how you do it. Because, you might want to build a studio.
True enough.
It needs to be, I don't want to annoy anyone near me. I don't want anyone near me to annoy me either. It's there's air conditioning to think about. There's so many things to think about, but it can be done. So, we'll do
that'll be good, actually. I'd watch a video on you building a studio.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
I would, yeah. Because you're right. There is lots. Essentially, you want it to sound good inside and not let any of the noise outside. But simultaneously, you don't want any of the noise from outside.
Exactly. Yeah, it's quite a mission. But it's doable.
There we go. Studio build. Exciting stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of the news, really. The only other bit of news, which is not such good news, is some bastard stole my car the other day. Saturday night.
Yeah.
Car just got swiped.
No. Yep. Well,
which is annoying.
Yeah.
But
it means we've got to walk.
It does mean we've got to walk to go and get lunch in a bit.
Yeah.
That's annoying.
Yeah.
Hopefully it will turn up.
The driver's on holiday.
But it did make me think about insurance. And do we insure our gear? Do we let our insurance know what gear we've got? And I remember it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I suddenly had a realisation that I'd accumulated such a lot of stuff in my studio and I just had regular insurance. And I'm like, I'm not sure they're going to pay out.
No.
So I contacted them and they're like, well, no. Any specific bit of gear that costs over a certain amount has to be, listed, need the serial numbers and all the rest of it. So ever since then, I've done that. And it's not massively expensive.
No.
It's not. It's really not. It's well worth doing. But you do then have peace of mind.
Dan makes note.
Yeah, honestly.
Insure kit.
Insure your stuff. And also check your car insurance. Is your kit in transit insured? That could be in your car insurance or in your house, in your business insurance. It could be in any of them. So check that.
Episode 7, Building and Insurance. Exciting stuff.
Exciting not, but necessary. Otherwise, although the thing I say to everyone, I'm like, do you know what? If I get robbed and all of this is gone, the only thing I would really, really be upset about is the hard drives. So, hard drives in the safe or somewhere safe when you're not around, I think is probably a good thing to get into. Because the rest of it's replaceable, but you can't replace your data.
No. God, the amount of stuff I've lost over the years backing up and what have you.
I've been pretty good.
It might surprise you to know I'm not the best backer-upperer.
I'm not that surprised.
No.
I've got everything going back over 20 years.
I dread to think.
Quite a lot of it involves you, Dan.
It does,
I have pictures of you in the vault.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, that must mean it's time for Plug-in News.
Okay. So here we are. Welcome to Plugin News, and we reviewed a plugin recently called the OV1 Records Plutonium. There'll be a link or something to the review in the box under the video. However, it was a different kind of plugin. This wasn't it, Sean? Why was it different?
Well, you couldn't hear what it did.
No.
The biggest issue was that the whole concept of it is that you can't hear it. It does things to your body using vibrations that you can only feel.
Yes.
You can't hear it.
I remember, and you could select parts of the body that you wanted to.
Yeah, I know.
I wonder
Which part
whether
you
they
selected.
measured like yes, yeah, I'm good, yeah, every time, yeah. Given the choice, you remember there was didn't they? There's some test, isn't there? Like a orgasm test where you press a button and you can like.
They did a load of tests, years ago, and they found. I think it was like there's one particular frequency. I think it might be 7 hertz or something, which they called a brown tone.
Oh yeah, well
if
that's a weapon, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, a sonic weapon. If you play it at advancing soldiers, they shit their pants.
Shit, yeah. No, I was thinking about the pleasure thing. I wouldn't play the brown tone. I'd be more your pleasure sort of a dude, I think.
But you'd be pressing one, and I'd be pushing the other, pointing at you.
You could do your thing. You go off with your brown tone, Mr. Brown Tone.
Yeah. Apparently that is a thing. Oh, we have gone out of focus.
We're still purple.
We're back in focus again. That's weird.
Okay.
Interesting.
Anyway, so I'm not brown tone. I'm pleasure tone. Good name for a record label. Isn't it? There probably is a record label.
Probably is a record label called that.
So I remember. Yeah, so you could pick different. I wonder whether they measured like resonant frequencies for your head or skulls or something.
I have no idea. I should think that's probably quite an expensive research project. Anyway, whether or not it really worked or not, I've seen other reviews of it online. Some people love it, some people don't get it. I could see it on a scope, what it was doing. I couldn't feel it.
It was pretty random on the scope though, wasn't it, as I remember?
Pretty wacky. Yeah, it was just wobbling around the real low end stuff to a really strange place.
Anyway, we'd love to hear what you guys think about it.
Yeah.
Because it is quite quirky and it's quite weird. And it's supposed to vibrate various parts of your anatomy. So go and have a look, give it a go, and let us know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, do that. Right, so it's that time in Plugin News where we're going to do another top 5.
Excellent stuff. And so what are the top 5? What are we looking at? The top 5 what this week?
Top 5 channel strips.
Channel strips.
We haven't done channel strips before.
Okay.
There's loads of them out there. Everyone uses them. I use them.
Yeah. Well, on every channel now, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. It's the go-to, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, may I start?
You may.
In 5.
Number 5, we have the UAD API Vision channel.
And what brings this at number 5?
Lots of people love it.
Yeah.
I personally don't use UAD, but it,
You felt you had to have one on the list because everybody else uses them.
pretty much.
Good reason. Good enough for me. In 4.
In 4 is actually the one that I use probably the most, which is the SSL Channel Strip 2, which runs on my UC1 controller. I just think it's an awesome channel strip. It sounds just like the SSL and it's very, very easy to use, makes everything sound great.
Yes, I use the channel strip 2 a lot too. Brings us on to three.
3, we have the Brainworks SSL 9000J. Now that was what I was using before I really got into the SSL Channel Strip 2. It's the J series SSL. You can flip it into the E if you want. It sounds excellent. The only reason I stopped using it was because I got the UC1, which made more sense to use the Channel Strip 2. But excellent sounding SSL emulation channel strip.
Excellent stuff. In 2.
It's the Brainworks AMEC 9099, which was the very first plugin we reviewed on Is It Shit?
Was it?
It was the very first one we looked at. Yeah.
Wowee.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I loved it then and I love it now. I think it sounds fantastic. I love the fact that it encourages you to use your ears because you can't see what you're doing. And it's a very unique sound.
You can't see
plugin.
what you're doing anyway.
I can't see what I'm doing.
No. Okay, good. Which brings us to in 1.
So Bully's special prize is the SSL 4KB channel strip.
Wow.
Which came out not long after I got the UC1 and was a free edition. If you'd already bought it, you got given that. So that is based on the SSL console that came out, well, from the B console, before the E, before the consoles that became ubiquitous. They had the B console, and it just had a very different signal path. The EQ was different, the compressor was different, and the gate was different. And SSL put them all in this plugin, which sounds fantastic. What I love about it is that the EQ is very reminiscent of SSL E-Series EQ, but a bit different and in an interesting way. I would say the gate is awesome. Just love the gate. They've just brought it out as a 500 series hardware unit again, actually, the gate of the B series. It's really cool. You can get some really cool sort of rhythm effects by using the gate. The compressor has a section, well, the dynamics section has a way you can flip it into becoming a de-esser. How useful is that?
De-ether.
De-ether. And it also has basically a button where you turn the transformer on the preamp, and you can really drive into this, and that's why it's kind of become my favorite channel strip, because it just gives you that analog sound the most easily. Out of all of these channel strips, this one sounds the most analog to me.
Fucking thrilling. Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. Very useful, very popular, these top fives, turns out.
I like doing them.
Yeah. Not just with Sean. It's not what I meant. Okay, brilliant stuff. Brings us on to
Retro Talk. So, Retro Talk is the bit of the show where we discuss a particular piece of equipment or software that we used to use, maybe don't use so much, and we miss it, something that we look back on fondly. So, Dan, I'm coming to you first this week. What are we talking about?
Wowee, that's scary, isn't it? Well, back in the day, as Retro Talk, so back in the day when I was a very young engineer, working in my first demo studio, 742, shout out Tony and Arthur, Oki. We had a console, O2R. Actually, the O2R had effects on it, but it was into a tape machine. So we had a 19-inch rack, and in that rack were two reverbs, two multi-effects units. That's the word I'm looking for.
As they were called in the day.
Yeah. There was the Yamaha SPX 990, which we used, had fantastic doublers on it, really, really nice delay. That introduced me to tap delays. So we were on. This was before we were in the box. Yeah. Yep. So getting delays in time with your with your track and stuff. Really, really cool unit. And then the second was the reverb we used, which was a Rev 500.
Oh, they were great.
Yeah. So that was the first time you actually had a representation of a sort of drum kit in a room on the front. I don't think it really meant anything, but it was cool because you kind of had you could dial in.
So was that the Rev 5 or Rev 500?
No, it was the 500. The 500 was blue.
I don't remember I remember the Rev 5.
No.
Which was like a 2U.
Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah, I remember the big one. That was earlier, I think. So Rev 500 came later.
Okay.
But it had all the dials on the front, and you could with the diffusion and the size of the room and the length of the reverb and stuff. And I kind of, again, I always think about going into big studios and working on tape and working in that, because we work in such a modular way now, or I certainly find out myself trying to get out of working in a modular way.
Yep.
Whereas working on tape, you're forced to work in a linear way.
You are.
And it makes you much more creative, and you're mixing much more creative. You could strike the tape and automate the O2R, as we sometimes did, but it just made you so much more creative. And it just, going back through these retro talks and talking about these old units and the effects that you used to go through, and the creative ways that you used to use them, and the linear way you used to work, I actually really miss it.
Yeah, no, I feel exactly the same. I had I didn't have a studio I worked at the SPX 900, and there was a program on that which I think it was called the White Room. I don't know if it was a preset or if it was something that someone else had knocked up. I think it was a preset, and I think it was like 1.2 second reverb, and it just always worked on snare drums.
Yeah.
On almost everything I mixed when I worked there, that would go on a snare.
Well, we looked, didn't we? We picked the old gated snare drums. We used to, you have the gate on your return there, and yeah, great sound. Wouldn't do something like that these days for some reason. I don't know. I
owned an SPX 90 Mark II.
Did you?
Yeah, and I remember the last time I used it was part of a live rig actually, and I just remember thinking, God, this thing's noisy. It was just
Well, oddly enough, talking about this 742, and Transmedia, it was built so the studio, the racks would pull out, and that would also
I
be
remember
the
that was the live
It would
rig.
still be it'd be the live rig as well. So you'd be out on
Yeah.
your O2R with your 990 and your 500, and was it a Pro R3? Was that the other?
I think there was a Pro R3. Yeah.
Like that was a more a multi effects as well, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, so and your gates and all your what have you, and yeah,
I remember, you literally used to wheel out your two
That's
racks
right.
and they would become your
Yeah.
live racks, and the desk would just be hoiked out and
yeah.
put in a box.
They had and they had a big analog board as well, big Yamaha analog board. I can't remember what that one was.
Oh, it was one of the PM 3000 or something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, great days, great kit. Miss
Cool.
it.
Interesting.
So, Sean,
Yes.
retro talk. What's your bit of retro gear?
Well, my bit of retro gear, which has been something I started using in the 90s, and I still have it. It's there. So this thing there, I refer to it as the Bug because it looked a bit like Starbug, the green spaceship from Red Dwarf back in the day.
Love Star. Red Dwarf. Sorry.
Stuttering.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was basically it's a portable CD player I used to have, and it died. The CD bit of it died. Rather than chucking it, I took it to my studio I had at the time, took it apart, wired a cable directly into the speakers, and that cable goes directly into my speaker management system, and I can now just push a switch and check mixes on it. And I've got so used to checking mixes on that thing that it's been with me ever since. And it serves so many purposes. One, it is a crappy little stereo boombox, so that whole thing of if it sounds good on that, it'll sound good on anything. That appears to hold true, but it also sounds very similar to a lot of Bluetooth speakers these days. In fact, it sounds better than most Bluetooth speakers these days. So it's just good for checking mixes on. But something I found out whilst doing quite a lot of mastering recently is all this trap music with these huge 808 bottom ends. I've found out that if it blows that out, if that starts farting, I just back it off to the point where it's not, and that's the exact right level.
Perfect. Perfect.
It's just become,
Yeah.
that thing that I sort of can't live without that anymore.
No. I was just thinking Bluetooth speakers. It does what it's told, and like fucking Alexa. God. Drives me mad, Alexa.
Yeah, don't say that. Yeah, they're listening.
They are.
They're listening the whole time.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. Just a simple boombox wired in, and yeah. I mean, I also have an Auratone over that side, which does a similar job, but I find the Auratone is perfect for judging kick drum in a mix. There's something about the Auratone, whereas if you can hear the kick drum, the click of it in the Auratone, then it's sitting just right.
I thought you were going to say vocals with your Auratone. I thought that.
No, the NS10s are just mainly for vocal mixing.
Yeah.
Pretty much the NS10 is what I use when the vocal goes in the mix, and then I'm back on the Dynaudios after that. So there you go.
There was retro talk.
It's Hot Topic. Today's Hot Topic. We're gonna go deep. How deep? Well, I don't know. I guess we'll just see how deep it goes.
So today's hot topic, Dan.
Yes.
What is it?
When is a mix technically wrong, and does it matter?
Well, so this is a thing that came up fairly recently. I'm mixing an album by a band called the Newtown Centers, who I love, and we've been working with them. I mean, I've been working with them. I think I recorded their first demos in 1996, I want to say. And then we had a label in the early 2000s, and we signed them. We worked with them then. They've been doing all kinds of stuff. They're a fabulous band. Love them. But working with them recently reminded me that technically their mixes quite often are wrong, in that they'll be asking me to do things to the mix which sort of on paper you'd go, no, you don't do that. You don't do that. That's not how you do that. That's too loud, that's too quiet, that's too weird. They like very dry mixes, trying to sneak some reverb onto the drums. I literally have to do it on the slide because they don't want any reverb really on anything. They love it all dry, and it does work. Weirdly, these completely very dry mixes, and very strange EQ. Like the bass on the Shockwave.
Yeah,
it's working on. I mean, the mid is just pushed through the roof.
Yeah,
but it sounds awesome.
Well, the thing is stylistic choices, isn't it?
That's
And as far as sort of EQ and stuff goes, as long as it's not clashing with other elements within the mix,
Yeah.
then
Yeah,
you
it's all
know,
fine.
often these things, I think, individual instruments, and it works both ways, doesn't it? You can listen to an individual kick drum or an individual bass line or whatever,
Yep.
and they sound phenomenal on their
Yeah.
soloed. Put them in a mix together, sounds terrible.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's that's a good mixing trick you have to learn fairly early on. Never EQ in isolation. It's just pointless. Do it when everything's playing. But no, I think it just exactly like you said. Really, I think it showed that that's their sound.
Yeah.
That's why they don't sound like anybody else. That's why I love them. And I think if you send those stems to someone and let them mix them,
Yeah.
it won't work. It's because they're sat there saying, "Oh no, we want this, not that," and I might be going, huh? But I've learned I'm just going to do it because that's how they get their sound.
And stuff sounds massively different, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
listening to my AirPods as you on the way here on the train, what have you, some breakbeat came on, followed by Custard Pie, Led
Yeah.
Zeppelin. So you got breakbeat with this big
Yep.
thumping kick drum, and then Bonzo also with his big, but the sound couldn't be more different. Obviously, his big drums are right at the back and big and boomy, whereas electronic kits are right there. So they both sound completely different, and it takes you a little while to get used to an acoustic recording after listening to an electronic mix. But they both sound phenomenal in their own way.
Yeah, and I think that's another good thing. I think when you become a mix engineer and you start working on lots of different bands or lots of different types of material, you realise quite quickly that although there are rules to a certain extent, where the kick drum and where the level of the bass or the vocal needs to be in a mix, if you listen to any two commercial tracks back to back, there's differences, pretty big tonal differences, and that's all right. That's what's supposed to happen. It's art. It's subjective.
Again, you're talking about the Newtown Centres stuff, like you were, recording at quality recording.
Yeah.
Makes mixing a lot easier, doesn't it? I've been recording some guitars this week.
Yeah.
My cheap guitars that I like playing sound terrible. The expensive guitar that I don't like so much sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting. So this, I don't know where it was recorded, this stuff, but some of it, the guitars and bass sound awesome. The drum recordings have been pretty abysmal. They need a lot of help. There's been gating to tape for some reason. So yeah, the kick drum stem has just got lots of cymbal on it on every single kick, which is then hard gated off, and it's like, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
What was going on there? The mics used on the hi-hat and on the overheads, it sounds like they've been recorded down a phone. I mean,
Or C1000s.
or AKG C1000s. I'm putting my money on. Those things are harsh. So yeah, it's difficult. It's been a bit of a repair job in many ways, but I mean that's doable. You get the vibe,
Yeah.
and that's fine. But yeah, recording a quality instrument with a quality mic is going to get you halfway there with mixing.
Yeah. It's not often you hear something where you hear mixes that you don't like, but it's not often you hear a mix where there's something actually wrong.
No, that's true. Every now and again there is.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it piques my interest. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
why have they done that?
Somebody's obviously made a choice there.
Someone's made a choice for that to
Or
be a
they've
bit
lent
weird.
on the mixing desk at the wrong time.
Well, doing so much mastering these days, that's interesting because I get to see what people think is a finished mix.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And I get sent things which are very polished and almost to the point of doesn't really need any mastering.
Yeah.
And then I get sent stuff which is not that. It's very raw and needs quite a lot of help.
Well, mastering can especially with we looked at the clippers and the new, the brain, all of this, and the amount of mid-side stuff you can do now. You can completely change a mix at the mastering phase now, can't you?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, it's interesting. I did one on, what was it, a couple of days ago. I mastered 2 tracks for an American artist, and they didn't think the vocal was sitting in the right place. It wasn't loud enough, and I couldn't. With mid-side, you can find the frequency where the vocal is dominant, and you can push it in the center channel, maybe 1 dB, maybe. You can't really do more than that. And if it's not enough, I did say, I'm like, you're going to have to go back to the mix engineer and get him to push it, because I can only do that. I can't do more than that. Because obviously, when you're working on a stereo master, although you can hone in the frequency, it's still going to take everything else with it.
Yeah.
living in that frequency.
Yeah.
And quite often that's the issue. It's clashing with something. So doing that won't always get you out of trouble. But you're right. You can achieve a lot in mastering.
It's I think this is the other thing. I mean, when you hear a really good mix, you know it's a really good mix.
Yeah.
Yeah. When people play your stuff and you're like, wow, that sounds phenomenal.
Oh, I've got like a folder of my favourite mixes, which I keep with me when I don't really mix live shows anymore. I've stopped doing that. But when I did for years, I would have my test tunes, which I used the same ones.
What are they then?
Every single time. It was always, I would start with Woman in Chains by Tears for Fears, Bob Clear Mountain mix, probably I think the best mix of all time. Just crystal clear, beautiful sounding mix. So I would always test that. And I would always fast forward it to the point just before the drums come in. There's just that bit of the song for me is like perfect. Once I was happy with that, I would then put Dusted by Left Field on.
Yes.
Which has just like
Classic.
monumental sub. But the thing about it is it's monumentally loud, but it is clear. It's not distorted. So I whack that through a PA, everything up full. I want to hear that clear. I don't want it to fart. Then I know the sub's all good. And then after that, I'd put Killing in the Name Of with, what do you call it?
Rage Against
the Machine. Just because the guitars, especially in the intro, are just fucking solid. If that sounds awesome on a PA system, you're going to be able to mix guitars absolutely fine.
Brilliant.
Those 3 tracks, done, dusted. There's more I'd listen to if I had time, but those 3 would do it.
Would be the top 3.
Yeah. And it's funny because all the techs working on the festival or the gig, whatever it is, they'd be like, you put on Women in Chains, they'd be like, You'd put on Dusty, they'd be like, and then you put Killing in the Name on it, everyone's like, it just gets everyone going.
How to make friends and influence people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Times. So there you go. So I think the conclusion is there is no wrong.
No.
There is no wrong. There is just.
But I think using that, and just to follow up actually on what you were saying about using reference tracks.
Yep.
I think that's a great way to learn to mix.
Of course.
Is to listen to tracks and understand why what is sat where.
Yep.
Really useful. I do that all the time. I use that for arrangement as well. Oddly enough, especially if I'm making dance music, I'll find a track that I really like the arrangement of. Usually, actually, quite an older sort of track, and then I'll use that to sort of as a template for my arrangement.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, keeping a folder of your favourite mixes handy is definitely something to bear in mind.
Great advice.
As always.
As always. Well,
not always.
Not always.
Some of the time.
Not always. Thank you very much for watching Studio Life episode 7, if you have indeed made it this far. Please subscribe to the channel. It really helps.
It absolutely does. And like the video. And we also have an Instagram, which is Studio Life 101.
We've got Patreon and a merch store, and the links for all of the above are down below.
Exactly. So we will see you next time.
Look forward to it.
Adios.
Tra.